presentation with our guest from
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington. Great. And we will talk about in-app purchasing and how to make more money on free-to-play basis.
Or at least we'll talk about how the most popular apps in our store have made more money, and you can decide if that's something you want to do or not.
Okay.
Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Здравствуйте. Меня зовут Миша. И мне очень приятно быть здесь. Но я говорю не очень хорошо по-русски. And I speak absolutely no Ukrainian whatsoever. So I guess that means I'll be doing the rest of my presentation in English. So who is this guy from Seattle? In Seattle they call me Mike, and I've done the startup thing, I've done the big company thing, although the favorite thing I do now is come and talk to groups of developers and share with them what's working really well in our app store at Amazon. Amazon's app store has over 700,000 apps in 236 countries and territories worldwide. So we get a good chance to take a look at what is and isn't working. And that's what I'm excited to share with you today about in-app purchasing. Now, why did we look at this? I love tower defense games. Does anybody else like tower defense games? Yes. Okay. Have you noticed that some really good tower defense games don't make a lot of money, whereas others that aren't that good kind of tend to make more? It really bugs me when that happens. So at Amazon, we've got tons of data on everything. So we decided to measure. What we did was we took 50 of the best performing games in our store, found out what they did, and compared it with 50 games. I mean, they're not bad games. They were good games, but they weren't in the top 50. And the first thing we did was we got data. Now, it's a cohort analysis. Cohort analysis is a fancy way of saying we just took all of the data, started it all on day one, and compared everything so that you could compare it from the top 50 to the rest of us. Oh, during the presentation today, I'm going to say the top 50 games and then the rest of us. I say the rest of us because none of my games are actually in the top 50. If any of your games are in the top 50, I apologize. And you can give me tips afterwards. So the first thing we did on day one, we start with installs. We start with 100 installs of the top 50 and 100 installs for the rest of us. On day one, what do people do? They install it, or they don't install it. It's actually interesting that about 40% of all of the apps downloaded on day one never actually get installed. Why is that? A lot of the games we think are downloaded because of incented ads. If you download this game, we'll give you 1,000 gems. I want the gems. I'll download the game. I don't want to play the game, but I want the gems. And so if you have this game, you download it but don't want, well, it's in that 42% and you delete it. But the important thing is, after some of those, of course, are uninstalled, how many of these 100 downloads turn into paying customers? It turns out, for the top 50 and for the rest of us, it's about 3% on the Amazon App Store. So 3% of downloads turn into paying customers. And it's really nice to see that that's the same for the top 50 and the rest of us. So let's take a look at something else we wanted to see. The top part we're going to call retention data. That's pretty standard retention data. But we wanted to go a little bit deeper. Here, we see usage minutes. On the left, we see average session length. The next circle is the number of sessions per day. And if you do the math, you should be able to get total session minutes for any particular game. Notice that the top 50 have a larger minutes per session, more sessions per day, and a lot more sessions total than the rest of us do. This is going to be really important as we move on. So keep your eye on that and how that changes. All right, I saved the best for last because not only do we want to know how customers use the games, we want to know how much they spend. Yeah. So what we did was we normalized spend based on the rest of us. And we normalized that to 100% so that we can see on a percentage basis how much better or worse the top 50 do. All right, they don't actually do worse. As a matter of fact, in terms of the number of items purchased per paying user, the top 50 actually have a 12% advantage. Here's a big scary thing. When it comes to the price paid per item, the top 50 have an enormous advantage. They're actually getting 50%, about 36% more for each item than the rest of us are. Now, if you sell more things at a higher price, well, you can do the math. Average revenue per paying user is a full 54% higher for the top 50 than it is for the rest of us. All right, let's take a look at day 2. Day 2, the retention numbers don't really change that much. There's no statistical difference in those numbers. The top 50, they're getting more session minutes, they're getting more sessions per day. More people are spending more time in the game. Now, they are, they've gotten down just a little bit on number of items paid. And you'll notice that we're a lot closer on the actual selling price. It's not because the top 50 did anything wrong. The reason that we're closer to the top 50 is because the rest of us actually started doing something right. We started selling deeper into our catalog, and we started selling more expensive items. So the top 50's advantage actually fell down to 31% average revenue per paying user. 1 week later, we're seeing a little bit of statistical difference in the retention data. So that's important. Again, the top 50, significantly more usage minutes, and they're starting to regain some of their edge in items purchased and price per item. All right, 2 weeks later, now that's a big difference in retention. That's a whole 40% difference in user retention, and they continue to do really well both on minutes and on price and sale of items. The last one we have is a month later. A month later, the retention difference, it's what, 100% different. So that's gigantic. And again, they maintain ultimately a 31% advantage in average revenue per paying user. Now, at this point, a lot of indie developers will ask me, but Mike, you just showed that after 7 days, we've lost 80% of our users. So why do we care about any of these numbers after we've lost 80% of our users? Well, that was a good question. So we came up with this. This is an interesting graph that shows you purchases by hour. So in the first 24 hours, you're going to make 18% of the revenue you're going to make from your game. All of that happens in the first 24 hours. Over here at 168 hours, that's where you've got 7 days. What I want you to think about is how far this curve continues to go. We could keep going out the door. In some games, this goes out to a year or longer. Wooga actually designs a lot of their games to be fun for a whole year. And it's this very long tail that makes a huge difference to the total revenue available in your game. Because when we measured this long tail, we found another interesting item, is that the longer somebody has your game, the more they're willing to pay for each in-app purchase item. As a matter of fact, in our study, we found that people who'd been playing the game for 30 days paid 60% more for each in-app purchase item than they did on day one. And that's why that long tail is so valuable to you, because they will stick with you for a long time and they'll spend a lot more. The top 50 get this and they act on that. All right, so that's basically the data, and we're going to go into how they got some of these differences in the next section. But what did we learn from that? The top 50 have higher average price points and they sell more stuff. Okay, honestly, you don't need me to stand up here and tell you that if you sold more things for a higher price, you'd be in the top 52, right? So we're going to take a look at exactly not just how they did differently, but what they did to get that result. And one of the things was they looked at more than just retention. Other things are super important too, like the number of sessions per day. That's also really important, and how the spending is spread out. So now what I'd like to look at is what they did to get that result. When we interviewed the top 50, one of the things that we were super impressed with was they knew the data. They knew all of these numbers. They knew that, 64% of their revenue was going to come from people who have ordered 3 or more things. That's pretty impressive. We checked with some of our other sources, and we found that in any given month, you're going to have a graph that's missing. The graph that's not there. Okay, it really isn't there. The graph that's not there would show you that in any given month, about 17% of your users will buy 3 or more things. What that tells you is every month you need to be keeping track of who's buying 3 or more things in your app or game. If you're not keeping track of that, your analytics aren't quite good enough. And when you find out who those customers are, treat them like gold, because that's what they're generating for you. These are the people who love your game. Treat them accordingly. 74% of your revenue will actually come after 7 days. Remember, I lose 80% of my users. I don't care. Do you care about 74% of your revenue? How about after 30 days, where you've still got half your revenue left on the table? All right, the next number. 48% of repeat purchases happen within an hour of a previous purchase. Okay, didn't I just show you that the average session length was about 6 or 7 minutes? So where exactly does this hour come from? Well, you're right. It doesn't come from the same session, obviously. What it does is it comes from a subsequent session on the same day. And that's why session count was so important to the top 50. Because they knew if it was really easy for a user to open the app a second time and pick up right where they left off, they were more likely to capture that repeat purchase than if it was hard to start a second session. Think about the game that you have or the game that you're designing. How easy is it for one of your players to come back in and start a subsequent session a little bit later in the same day? Think about that. That could be huge. A lot of people think if someone's going to spend money, they're probably going to spend money early. Well, actually only 37% of people who ever spend money on the first day. That means people who haven't spent anything until day 14 for them may still actually become really good customers of yours. So it's not a good idea to ignore people who don't convert in just the first few days. Okay, next thing they do. In our study, the participants who introduced in-app purchasing in the tutorial actually sold 2.5 times more items than developers who didn't. Now, it's not abusive. It's not in your face. It's not pay to win by any chance. They just have all this great content that you need to pay for. And they're showing you some of this great content. And when they show you the great content, it works. People want to get the great content. Now, they don't actually just show you the content that you can buy. They also show you how to use it. I mean, how frustrating would it be if you bought something and then you didn't actually know how to use it in the game? Well, one, you wouldn't use any of it up. And if you didn't use any up, why would you ever buy more? The games in our study that had showing people how to use it had a 65% higher repeat purchase rate than those that didn't. All right, we've shown them how to buy, we've shown them how to use. Oh yeah, now we need to have stuff to buy. It's interesting. The more items you have for sale, the higher your average revenue per paying user turned out to be. Now, again, this is easy to misunderstand. They did not put everything on the same in-app purchase dialog page. That would be terrible. You'd have tiny font, or it would run off the page and it would be unreadable. No, they didn't do that. What they did was they showed different catalog items to different people at different times. For example, they showed day 30 users stuff that was, you guessed it, 60% more expensive than the stuff they showed them on day 1. So they tune the catalog to the user that they've got. I mean, think about it. If the in-app purchase catalog doesn't change, why would you ever go back after 3 or 4 days of not seeing any change? Because it's the same stuff on day 30 you saw on day 1. If you weren't interested then, you're not interested now. They use the diversity and depth in their catalog to enrich the experience of their in-app purchase offerings. Now, where variety is great for items, it's terrible for price. The more prices you had, the less revenue you got. And it's not because there's like a bad price out there. $2.99 isn't somehow a bad price. What it was an inability for customers to distinguish the value between two very closely priced items. If you have a sword for $2.99, $1.99, and 99 cents, why would you get the more expensive one? How much better is it? Well, you know, how much better is it than the 99-cent one? I mean, sometimes it can be a little bit hard to tell because if you've got blue, red, and gold, really what's the difference? So what the top 50 found out was that a confused customer who's confused about the value, they don't go out and buy the most expensive thing. They actually don't go out and buy anything. A confused customer won't buy anything from your store, most or least expensive. All right, so what prices should you have if you shouldn't have too many? One of our partners, Swerve, has generously donated some data to us. And notice they've got price points that go out 20, even past $50. Absolutely have some of the higher priced items in your catalog. Absolutely show them to your users who are there 30 days later. It's a very good thing to have for depth of your catalog. It's a broad section of prices. I wanted to show you guys an example. This is actually a really good example of an in-app purchase dialog page. I'm not going to show you a bad one because all of you guys know what a bad in-app purchase dialog looks like. This is actually okay. It's big, it's easy to read. You can tell that on the left-hand side and in the top on the right, we've got what looks like soft currency. Not really sure what the stuff in the bottom right is, but it doesn't matter. It's not a bad in-app purchase dialog. But, crowd participation time. How many people in the room are engineers? All right, that's almost about half the room. How many people in the room have any finance or accounting background? A few more. Okay, guys, why would I spend $60 as opposed to $1? Oh, I can see you doing the math now, right? So doing the math, okay, that's not fair doing it now. You've been looking at this slide for 30 or 40 seconds and you have no idea why you should spend $60. And I'm talking to a room full of engineers. Why do you think your customers are going to do the math? Okay, guys, don't make your customers do math. Make it easy for them. Look at this. You don't have to do any math at all here. We're going to go ahead and tell you why you should spend more money. Look, if I spend $50, I get 100% more than if I spend just $1. Make it easy for customers to spend a lot of money with you. How many of you are making it this easy in your app for the customer to attach to the value? All right, spend some time thinking about that. All right, not a secret. When you have a bigger selection, you're going to get more orders because you can put the right thing in front of the right customer at the right time. Be super clear on value. Having too many crowded price points can make value difficult to discern for someone who's just gotten your game. Make sure that you show customers how to use the stuff they just got if you want them to use it up and buy more, and introduce the cool extra work. I mean, when you build an in-app purchase item, you've put amazing content into the game behind a little paywall, haven't you? Why would you ever hide that from your users? Show them how cool it is. It's not necessary, but it is cool. All right, now how do they do differently to get that extra minute or those extra sessions per day? What are the top 50 doing for engagement? They make it easy to use the game. Flappy Birds is amazing. What? You have one tap and you're playing the game again? That's really easy. Do you know the game Connect 4? You drop in checkers and you try to get 4 in a row. I like that game too. But to play the game, you launch it and you get a beautiful splash screen. Tap. Hello, would you like to play a new game or start an old game? Tap. Would you like to go first or second? Tap. Red or black? Tap. 4x5 or 4x7? Tap, 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 tap. I'm done. I'm going to play something else. When a customer comes back to your game and starts a new game, start them with the options that they chose last time. 80% of the time, that's what they're going to want to do. Only make them go through all those taps if they want to change what they did last time. Little things like that make a big difference. Second thing, most of the people who are going to spend a lot of money in your game are power users. They're people who have more than one device. They have a phone and they have a tablet. And if I've gotten to level 15 on a tower defense game on my tablet at home, and I go to the store and pull out my phone, and I get to start at level 0? Really? Am I going to play your game? No way I'm going to replay those levels again. So you know what? You just lost a subsequent session. And with the loss of a subsequent session, you lost a repeat order. And when you lose a repeat order, you lose a significant chunk of that population that would re-engage and spend money on your game. So pay attention to these little things. Encourage the right game difficulty. Now, I asked the top 50 if they optimized difficulty for in-app purchase revenue. Every single one of them said, no way. That is a terrible idea. Well, what do you optimize difficulty for? Next level start. They don't care so much if someone buys something at any given level. What they really care about is that they keep playing, that they're fostering engagement, that they're getting people in for longer sessions and then more sessions per day. Because when you get someone really engaged, they end up being in the game longer, more likely to spend more money down the road, more likely to convert to paying customers. So tune game difficulty at least a little bit. Pay attention to how game difficulty affects the next level start. Oh, and the top 50 love community. Okay. Community means more than just having a like on Facebook button on your game. Community means that you've got people out there who are influencers. I imagine actually all of you are influencers in your community. People come to you and say, hey, what cool game are you playing today? Or, you know, I can't get this to work, would you please fix it? People come to you to learn these things. So a good community will reach out to people like you so that you were say, hey, I'm playing this great new tower defense game. You need to try this. A good community will foster those kinds of advocates. It'll also foster content creators. Now, content creators can be a level for your game if that's the kind of game you have. But even more importantly, they're the streamers on Twitch or video people on YouTube who will show others how fun your game is. One of the things that we've noticed is if you can see how somebody else is doing really well at a level, you're probably going to say, wow, I want to try that. You'll watch the video, you'll go back to the game and try that strategy. When other people are showing you how to do well, you go in and you re-engage with that game. So if somebody out there is making content that helps your game, turn them into rock stars, make them heroes, promote their video of your game as much as you promote your own game. Why? Everybody wants to be a rock star. Seriously. And if everybody else sees this one guy becoming a rock star, well, I can make a video too. Let me show you how a mage can go through all by himself and win the level. And then everybody will start contributing because they want to be treated like rock stars just like the first guy. And you can build this community. It's what the top 50 are really good at doing. Building that community so that you can have them help get you new users and have them help you get engagement. The minimum bar, absolute minimum bar for social engagement is a leaderboard and achievement. Guys, it's free. Every game service out there, Amazon's, Google's, Apple's, they all have a free game service that includes leaderboards and achievements. The APIs are simple. It will take you less than a day to implement this. And it encourages people to say, hey, I'm really close to being #1 in my state, or #1 in my city, or #1 in my group of friends. If I just play a little more, I'll beat them. I may go a little over, that's okay? Okay. One of my favorite stories is of this geography game. My son and I downloaded this really bad geography game. I mean, it just showed a map, it showed you a country, and then said, what's the capital? I mean, any of you guys could have written this game in a weekend. It was that simple. But they put in a leaderboard where you could follow the game with your friends. So my son and I played the game. It's educational, right? And of course, I beat him. Everything is good. I'm at the office and I'm bored at a meeting and I'm kind of checking my phone, and here's this little notification. Bing! Your son has beaten your high score. That's not okay. I travel around the world for a living. Okay, so, trying to look interested in the meeting, I'm sitting there playing the game. Okay, I play one more time. I beat his high score. Everything is good. I'm back in my office later that same day. Bing, guess what? Okay, over the course of that week, I spent about 3 hours until he couldn't beat my high score anymore. That's 3 hours more than this stupid game ever would have gotten. That's 3 hours of ad impressions. There were no IAP items. But that's 3 hours of ad impressions that they got that they didn't really deserve because they had a good game. They only got that because I couldn't let my son win. To close the story on that, he finally played the game and got a perfect score. He got every single capital in the world correct. And he did this, so the best I could do was tie him and not beat him. I never even got close to that, so I ended up never winning. Anyway, for what, half a day's work? Really, think about doing that. A more complicated example, kind of a high bar, is Disney. How many of you know the game Club Penguin? Yes, thank you, okay. There are a few of you back, I love you guys. Club Penguin is a massive multiplayer online game for the 11, 12-year-old set. And you have these adorable penguins. They live in igloos. They play with pets that are called puffles. They're really cute. They look like little fuzzy balls of all kinds of different colors. And it's just this adorable little experience. And this girl, okay, not one of these girls, but there was a girl, and she drew a picture of her penguin and the puffle and the igloo, and she put it up on her Facebook page. What do you think Disney's attorneys did? Cease and desist letter, copyright infringement, take it down, that's not licensed Club Penguin art. Well, that's what you would expect Disney attorneys to do, right? Actually, Disney's attorneys were brilliant. They sent the little girl a letter, an email, saying, with your parents' permission, we would love to put your picture up on the Club Penguin fan art page. Are you kidding? That's the first thing she did, was get permission and put it up there. And then she went to school. My art is up on Club Penguin. And you know, her friends are like, no way. So her friends get home, they go to Club Penguin, they check it out, and they look at her art. And they're thinking, I can do better than that. And so now you've got an entire middle school of 12 and 13-year-old girls creating Club Penguin accounts and submitting their art to the fan art page. You can't buy advertising that's that good. And all Disney had to do was create a space for fans to express how much they really enjoy the experience. How hard would it be for you to do that? Do you have an experience you think fans would really like in your game? I mean, we're talking the dedicated fans, that 4, or 8% of people who will actually use your game past day 30. Do you have a place for them to show others how great your game is? Think about that. The top 50 do, and it really works well for them. All right, the top 50 also have control over everything. They do A/B testing like it's, documenting code. When we were talking to the top 50, they said, listen, we've got a choice. We can either guess what's going to be popular with our customers because we do play trials, we do soft launches, and then we say, okay, based on the soft launch in Canada, we guess this is the right difficulty variable. Well, guess what? The top 50 don't guess, they know. Because they can test using A/B testing tools. If just a little bit harder or a little bit easier is going to change things in any particular geography or at any particular level. And guess what? The nice thing is you can get A/B testing tools free. Last time I looked, there were about 12 or 13 on the market. 2 or 3 of them were actually free. And it took me, 15 minutes to implement an A/B test that tested buy now or just purchase as 2 different radio button texts. And it's super easy. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to know instead of guess. Oh, by the way, even when your game is in market, you can go to the A/B testing website and change the text on the buttons or change the difficulty in the middle of your release without actually having to compile any code, re-release anything, because the game will actually pick up the new value you put in. Imagine changing important structural parts of your game like difficulty without actually having to re-release anything. A/B testing, some pretty good stuff. Okay, last really fun story here. It's a case study of Ninja Kiwi. Okay, my tower defense fans, you guys know this game, right? Shout it out. Where'd you go, guys? Bloons Tower Defense, that's right. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with the game or tower defense, you've got a bunch of balloons coming into a maze over here. The balloons run around the maze, and these are evil balloons. Somehow, if the balloons exit the maze, you're in big trouble. But fortunately, you get monkeys. Not just any monkeys, monkeys that throw darts. And you can put these adorable little dart-throwing monkeys to make sure that they pop all the balloons before they exit the maze. Very cool. Well, right up until you get the armored balloons. Those are hard to pop. And trust me, they still float in this game. It's really cool. So you have camouflage balloons, armor balloons, and if you've got 15 minutes into this level, and you're almost done, and a bunch of balloons are about to escape the bottom, maybe you want to go over here and click on something that's locked. Guess what happens? You can't buy it. Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't buy that. You have to quit the level, which is exactly what you were trying not to do. You have to go back to the main menu, click on the right hut, click on the right menu item in the hut, click on what you want to buy, I mean, seriously? That's not making it easy to buy. Well, fortunately, the people at Ninja Kiwi, smart people, they actually learned from this, and in their next game, okay, tower defense and zombies. It doesn't get any better than this. You've got a horde of zombies coming in, and you can set up machine guns and mortars and all of the traditional anti-zombie equipment that you can get with soft currency. Your soft currency menu is over here. But if you've been playing for 15 minutes and this huge horde of zombies is about to hit your human population, you know what you can do? You can go over here and buy a nuclear hand grenade. Now, I'm not sure whose good idea it was to give soldiers nuclear hand grenades, but I thought this has got to be cool. So I clicked on that. And it didn't just say, Mike, we're going to sell you one nuclear hand grenade for 99 cents. We're going to sell you 3. And this is how you use it. You click on the icon, and you drag it over to the horde of zombies, and when you let go, that's where the hand grenade drops. They even gave me a nice countdown before the game started again. 3, 2, 1. I dragged the hand grenade over, let go of it. Boom! Arms and legs, heads everywhere. It was just covered in blood, gory. It was wonderful. It was absolutely amazing. And and of course I won the level. But that was such an amazing effect. I thought, you know what? I may not need it right now, but I gotta see what the Apache attack helicopter does. So I went and I bought an Apache attack helicopter. And you know what? That was equally cool. Okay. What really worked for them was when they gave their customers what they needed to buy, when they needed to buy it. Ninja Kiwi and other games in our study increased average revenue per paying user 75%. Think about the game you're building. Are you making it easy for customers to get what they need when they need it? Really think hard about that. And that makes a big difference in the game. So, what do we take away from this? We take away from this that tuning difficulty or tuning anything for in-app purchase revenue makes the customers feel used. And it really shortens retention. Instead, think about having a metric based on retention. We learned that differentiate your IAP catalog so you're selling the right things to the right users at the right time. And oh my gosh, make it easy to buy. Put what they need when they need it in your game, and don't make them do math. Don't make them do math. So, I mean, I know I have tossed a lot of things out at you today. If you're going to remember one thing, I want you to differentiate your IP catalog. If your game isn't fresh, I mean, the top 50 and the rest of us know that you need new levels to keep people interested in the game and to keep people playing. But apparently not all of us know that we need to keep our IAP catalogs fresh if we want people to actually pay attention to it. So that's one thing that's really important. There's another thing that's really important. And that's, again, being super clear about value. One of my, a game that used to be one of my favorite games, when you decided not to buy something, it showed it to you in action. So yeah, I don't want to get the pink little dragon. No thank you. Well, are you sure you don't want a dragon that breathes a huge column of fire and fries everything in its path, leaving little mounds of charred dust? Okay, well, that's kind of cool. I don't care if it's pink. Yeah, I'll buy that. So be super clear about value. Separate your price points and demonstrate the value to the customer so that they know what that does. Guys, thank you very much for your time. I do have this presentation online. Go to the bit.ly address. You can get the pictures and a lot of my commentary that I've written down to go with it. And you can follow me or get in touch with me here. I'm fairly responsive on Facebook. not so much on Twitter these days, but do I have any time left for
Yeah,
questions?
we have about 5 minutes to
Okay.
our Q&A session.
Sure.
Could you move to make photo?
What is that? Best.
I'd like to make photo of your link also.
Oh.
So Polish, Ukrainian guys.
Actually, that's one of the best questions I've gotten. I can get in touch with you later.
Okay.
What's the size of the teams, or what's the size of the games by budget, by teams, by companies? Top of 50 of these games.
So the top 50, not all of them were AAA studios, actually. There were a handful of, I wouldn't say indies, but more mature, B or double B studios were in there. In the not top 50 we looked at, there were actually a few AAA studios that weren't doing these things, and there were a lot more indies.
Indies, it's talking about like 1 developer, 2 developers, or up to 10 developers, something like this?
I don't think we had any one developer shops. I think we had a handful of 4 and 5 developer shops. Again, because my motivation for going in was I've played a game that I think is way better than a game that's making more money. And I want to know why. And some of the games I really enjoyed playing were made by smaller shops. And so how come it is that they're not making more money given the same, if you take just a look at an equal number of downloads, they should be making more money. I get that the top 50, the AAA studios, are going to have 1,000 times the downloads. I get that. They can buy all kinds of traffic, right? But even if we just compare it on a per user basis, the good games were really missing some of their marketing fine-tuning and some of their approach to the things we talked about.
One question. You said that purchases must be really easy, and what about refunds? If somebody buys something by accidental clicking, would you have ability to cancel it or something like that? You said about zombies, you buy 3 grenades, but can you cancel it? Because
So the question was about accidentally purchasing something
Yeah.
from the hard currency menu if that's not really what you wanted. And in the game that you were using with the zombie tower defense game, you click on the nuclear hand grenade, it didn't just charge you. It actually said, would you like to buy 3 for 99 cents? And you actively had to click yes. So there were actually 2 taps involved in order to execute the purchase. And Ninja Kiwi was probably one of the best companies at making what you needed available immediately. There was another game where it was a top-down dungeon crawler, and there was this really cool bright blue sword that you could buy if you ran by. You could either pick it up and pay 99 cents for it or just run by. The thing is, right after you run by, you open the door and there's a boss and it slaughters you. Okay, you go back to your spawn point. Now, maybe I want to pick up that blue sword for 99 cents. So they still give you the opportunity not to buy it. But knowing how badly you got slaughtered by the boss, it turned out a lot of people decided to pick up the blue sword and use it.
And one more question regarding
Yes.
this. So we talked about buying things, and if you want to buy something, for example, you just make purchase, and the question is next. How should you ask users, for example, about credit card? It will be settings like before action control, so something like that?
Oh, how do you ask for payment information?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a little bit different for Amazon because customers who get their games from Amazon already have their payment information in their Amazon account. So when an Amazon customer downloads your game, there's no friction about payment instrument at all. All of that's already done by Amazon on our end. So you don't have to worry. When we were doing the study, we never really had to worry about entering payment information. That just wasn't an issue. By the way, thank you. It's a really good idea to sell your game on Amazon because there's no payment friction. Thank you. All right, guys, I know I've dumped a lot of information on you in a short time. I will be available in here and around pretty much for the rest of the day. If you have questions, please come up and find me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about your game and see what you've got. Thank you for your support.